This is DJ Taya live at Gen Con, here with Eddie Webb from White Wolf, here to tell us a little bit about White Wolf and their upcoming projects.
So part of that is what White Wolf actually is nowadays. It's a little more complicated. White Wolf is actually kind of a family of companies right now. We have CCP, the primary production of White Wolf, but we've also licensed a lot of our RPG games to Onyx Path Publishing. And the live-action games we've licensed to By Night Studios. So there's actually a few different very passionate companies who are involved in making White Wolf products as we understand them. But I'm working for at least two of those big companies, so it kind of becomes a moot point. Like right now for Onyx Path, I'm working on a new Vampire the Masquerade book called Rites of the Blood, which is a lot more about blood magic, thaumaturgy, Sabbat rituals, necromancy, and all the other elements that come with that.
All right, so those of our listeners that actually play the World of Darkness games will actually really be looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but my full-time day job is working on the World of Darkness MMO still for CCP.
Yeah. Actually, I think Ian said something about they were still working on it. Do we have any sort of release date on it, or?
I can't talk about that, unfortunately. But I can certainly say that it is very aggressively being worked on. The folks at Atlanta, we've been working hard on it for a while. We've done some preliminary testing on it, so I mean, certainly things are moving forward. But in terms of what's going to happen and how it's going to come out, I can't say yet.
Yeah, like I already knew, because they put the new character creation, Captain's Quarters, in EVE Online. Mm-hmm. They were basically telling us that was alpha testing for the World of Darkness MMO. Mm-hmm. So that's actually, like I said, really cool that they get to tie those in. Let's see, you said you're releasing a new Vampire the Masquerade book. Mm-hmm. Anything else up and coming between any of the companies?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's really just kind of focusing it down. Like recently, Onyx Path released Werewolf the Apocalypse 20th Edition. Mm-hmm. They're looking at they're in the middle of doing Mage the Ascension 21st Edition. On the new World of Darkness side, Mummy the Curse came out, new Mummy game, and they've started talking and releasing details on the new Demon the Descent. So there's a new Demon game coming out.
I don't think I have Demon Descent on PDF. I think I have all of them but that one.
Yeah,
collection.
Demon the Fallen was the original version. This is the new World Darkness version for Demon. Very different kind of take on them, involving the God Machine Chronicles and whatnot. I've also been releasing fiction anthologies for both the classic and the new World Darkness. I've actually written some stories for some of the recent God Machine fiction anthology and the Strix Chronicles fiction anthology. The Exalted 3rd Edition is in the process of being worked on. In fact, I did a big Kickstarter for that. So the guys working on that are really kind of moving along. It's really exciting. By Night Studios is working on a new Mind's Eye Theater. They just finished their Kickstarter. And so they're talking to a lot of people in the live action community and putting the finishing touches on that manuscript. And back at CCP, I mean, we're working on Dust, we're working on Eve, working on Warlocks MMO. There's just so much going on. Kind of narrowing it down to a quick soundbite of here's the things we're working on is really difficult.
And not much you can tell us about it seems.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, certainly I know how frustrating it is because I've been wanting to talk about some of the cool stuff we're working on.
Well, at least they slowly release us little bits and pieces and feed us little bits and pieces.
Right, no, certainly. And I mean, I actually reiterate some of the points that have been talked about before, like the fact that it's going to be based on the Vampire the Masquerade, as opposed to the new World of Darkness stuff. It's going to be primarily based on the classic World of Darkness. We're digging into that mythology. And it's going to be using a lot of the same core values that CCP has expressed in Eve and in Dust. This is not going to be just, slap a coat of paint onto an existing game. I mean, certainly, the maximizing human interaction, the strong player-driven game, these are all things that are part of the CCP fundamental ideology. We're certainly going to continue to explore those in World of Darkness MMO.
Well, are they going to make the MMO a sandbox like they did with Eve, where it's kind of, the players create the environment, or will it kind of have a set storyline that you follow?
But from my understanding, I know the answer, I'm not sure I figure out what section you said. My understanding is that that's what CCP makes. I mean, we've talked about this before, and generally Hilmar and a number of other people, the producers, have basically said, this is the kind of games CCP makes, so this is what we're good at, so we should make games that we're good at. So certainly the idea of a sandbox, player-driven game, something that has made so many fantastic stories for EVE, starting to make some really strong headway in Dust, so it would be weird for us to not make that same ethos of game for the World Darkness. Certainly there have been really strong story-driven games that have been done in the World Darkness, like the Hunter the Reckoning, Xbox games and whatnot. But that's not what CCP specifically is known for. So we're known for that style of giving the players tools and allowing them to make their own story and craft their own stories. So these are things that we're definitely keeping in mind as we work on the World Darkness MMO.
Yeah, and CCP does really well in sandbox games.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're known for. So, if we were to turn around and try to make, like, a straightforward narrative RPG, that would be very strange and not within our wheelhouse design. But certainly one thing that we keep in mind is that the World Darkness has a rich tapestry of mythology.
Well, of course. I mean, it's been around for what? They said they just released the 20th anniversary edition, so it's been...
Over 20 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds of books, dozens of different languages. We've got a TV show, card games. There's a lot of rich information there. But that doesn't mean that it's going to force it into a particular channel. There are ways to be able to make games that we could say, there's this rich tapestry that we're drawing from, and we can actually turn that into a backdrop for an interesting experience that still focuses on the players. And that's really what the World Darkness tabletop game's done for so long. You can play through the events of Anatole and Beckett or all of these other characters and play through the meta plot that different books have talked about. But a lot of times that's a backdrop to the stories that the players make at the table or they make in their live action games. So when we're working on an MMO, certainly we're going to think about those things because those things have worked well for us in the past, and so obviously we're going to draw from that and do those kinds of things.
So I guess the difference with this one with CCP, though, is, or Ares, they had EVE, they had to make up the entire world. They're getting World of Darkness, it already has its world, it already has its, all of its legend and lore and everything set up. So sounds like a pretty easy fix to turn it into a game.
Yes and no, because on the one hand, it's like, you already have the backdrop to everything, but then we have to go, okay, trying to cram hundreds of books of information into a screen is extremely difficult. And so it's like, one extreme, terrible example is like if we were to do, say, a werewolf game, and it's like, there's these 13 tribes, and there's Gaia and Luna and all these other characters and all these different spirits, and that's how the spirit world works. And you haven't even started playing the game yet, but you also have to figure out all these auspices. There's a lot of information, And the vampire game, in some respects, you have the Cain myth and 13 clans and the different sects and ideologies and how they work together. So it can be overwhelming, and one of the challenges we have is that rather than we have to build the mythology from the ground up and expand on it, now it's like, how do we pare it down?
So basically, you just need to take all of the information you have and move it downward into easy to kind of comprehend starting out.
That's part of it, and also one of the things we talk about a lot at work is how we can inject that into other parts of the game, because the whole wall of text thing is something that I know a lot of video games companies try to avoid. Is like you don't want to sit there and read pages and pages and pages of text on the screen. It's not an ideal way of interacting with it. But that doesn't mean they can inspire our art direction or the gameplay or the other aspects of the design. We can certainly say, how can we make each entity's design reflect this rich tapestry of information without making here read these 5 books?
Well, are there actually going to be any Easter eggs in the game for those who have played the tabletop version, who know the lore and the legend and everything behind it? Are there going to be maybe Easter eggs for just them?
I would hope so. I would like to do that. We'll see what actually happens. But one of the things to remember is that Chris McDonough has been working on this stuff for 20 years. He's our senior producer. I've been working on it since 2007. I've been a fan of it since the 90s. Bill Bridges has been working on it for 20 years. He works on this project. So there are people involved in this who are very, very passionate. And that's not counting the other dozen or so of our coworkers who were fans of the property before they came to work on the World of MMO or specifically chose to come to CCP so they could work on this product they've been a fan of. So a lot of these people were either creators, fans, or both. and we're very passionate about things that would that we would feel to be cool. So, I mean, I think as a result of that, there's going to be elements of the game that people are going to go, oh yeah, I'm familiar with the properties, I recognize this thing. I personally hate the idea of Easter eggs because they're going, oh, hey, and here's the piece that's for the fans. It's really more along the lines of fans will get an extra layer out of this that's not going to be shoved in as a token nod, hey, thanks. It's more along the lines of, we're all fans, and we think it would be cool to see these things in there that existing fans will also appreciate and gravitate to, as opposed to just, let's just shove something in a corner and see if anyone notices.
And you mentioned that you were using a Kickstarter on one of your new projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
That was for the Onyx Path stuff, but Onyx Path, what they've been doing for the past couple of years for the RPG stuff, is they've been moving over to print on demand and PDF for a lot of our production and distribution of the games, for a variety of business reasons. But one of the things that we found when we worked on Vampire 20th Anniversary Edition was that it's really, really hard to make the kind of deluxe editions that were somewhat popular back in the day. You know, the leatherette covers, the silver binding, the bookmarks, these really kind of luxurious books. And we did Vampire 20th, that was all done in-house with CCP, but you know, that was a different kind of economy of scale. And now that things have moved on, that they're a separate company, it's really hard as a small company to do that. So they decided Kickstarter would be a great way to do that. So these are books that are going to be made, you know, the writing, the art, all that stuff's going to be done for the normal editions. But now we can do these Kickstarters for these deluxe editions, people who are really strong fans of it. And Werewolf was a really good example, is because it was their 20th anniversary, but we were a different structure for how we're doing the business. And so Kickstarter's a chance to go, hey, if you want this really, really nice book that has like metal plates and different bookmarks in it, and you know, kind of edging on the side, it's going to cost you like $150. And if we get enough people who contribute to that, then we can make a certain print run, because you have to do a certain amount of books for traditional printing to be able to make that feasible.
Yeah,
and so you have a calculator to go, hey, you know, if we do a minimum, I think it's like 1,000 books, I don't remember the number, but if it's like 1,000 books at this price point, we can go ahead and make these available for those people that order them. And if more people order them, we can simply just increase their print run. But then it's also a limited, it becomes an event. It's like, you know, you were able to buy it for this certain time period, then that particular deluxe edition is no longer available, but you can still get the hardcover color books. You know, those are still available through Drive-Thru RPG and whatnot. But then the limited edition becomes very much like an experience. You know, it's like, I was there, I was able to be a part of that and put money towards it, and I have this a nostalgic reminder of this game that I've really loved for all this time.
And see, Kickstarters have actually been proven to be really popular ways to get things off the ground. So the fact that you guys are using one as well is really cool. It's kind of like you're trying to give back to the fans.
That's exactly it. Because and we actually had some interesting, weird discussions about that. You know, the idea that Kickstarter's only for indie people getting started and blah blah. And it's like, well, on the one hand, Onyx Path is literally a one-guy operation. So I mean, it's about as indie as you get. You know, it's a guy working out of his house trying to make these games. But that aside, it's more important to kind of think about the fact that you're right. These are things that we could not be able to make without Kickstarter. You know, without knowing, okay, we can guarantee X amount of money to be able to actually pay for the run. And there's not like, all the money that's being made is going back into these books for fans to have. So it's, you know, hey, this is the price point to be able to make it, that we're not making gobs of cash off of them. The whole point is making money to make this experience, to make it available as a gift, thank you for 20 years of supporting these games and for loving these games. So Kickstarter is really good to be able to say, here's how we're able to make this thing that couldn't exist before. Exalted Third Edition is a little bit different in the fact that, you know, that was a game we were working on. I think it was still a deluxe edition thing, but also very stretch goals. As more money, it became, okay, let's see if we can put more material in the book. Let's see if we can make additional books. Let's see if we can make novels or comics or other elements related to it. Again, we couldn't do because we didn't know if there was a market there until we were able to have this Kickstarter model. So Kickstarter is also really good to be able to say, we have this default product plan that we would like to see out there. But there's just things we would love to do, but we don't know if there's money. And we can find out if there's money. It's like, oh, fans give us exactly this amount of money, so there is money to be able to do these things that we can then expand further. So it does kind of go in different directions, but it still, I think, hits to the core of it in the fact that these are things that wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for this patronage investment model. By going through that area, it's okay, these are now things that we would like to have done, and we know they're possible. When before, even 5 years ago, it would have been, we were estimating, okay, let's put this much money up front and hope it pans out. And we, a lot of times, end up losing money on these kinds of products. So we go, okay, we can't do it anymore because we keep losing money. But now it's like we get exactly to the audience that would appreciate that stuff, see if they're willing to invest. If they are, then make it available to them.
All right, so basically White Wolf and Onyx Path, and it's kind of become a more for the players type thing with the Kickstarters.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's certainly a little bit of reimbursing some of the developers. I mean, as a developer making books, I get paid for that. The writers get paid for it. Certainly people get compensated for their work. But the ability to be able to make things available in a way that's cost neutral is very attractive, because at the end of the day, we're not losing money, so why not? For this short period of time, you're right, it's very, very attractive, and it does allow us to do these things. It's really cool we can do this. And that's honestly how Vampire 20th Anniversary, for example, started when we were talking about CCP. Was a case of, we've had this property for 20 years. A lot of us are fans or have worked on it. We want to do something cool as a thank you. And that's really how it started, was the conversation of, we should do something cool because it would be nice as a thank you. And being able to cut the financial concerns out of that question, and then it simply becomes, are we interested in doing this, and can we make it work? Which is exactly what I think Kickstarter is all about. Kickstarter is, I have this cool idea, I don't know if I can make it marketable, can I get the seed money to not lose money on it so I can go from there? And that's exactly what we're able to do, these kinds of things.
All right, well, is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners about White Wolf, CCP, upcoming projects, things like that we haven't already covered?
Honestly, certainly check out, for the Onyx Path side, theonyxpath.com is website and social media for all of the RPG stuff. For live action side, just do search for Binance Studios. They have a Facebook page, and they've been releasing regular playtest documents so that you can actually test the rules. They can do revisions of the rules based on the feedback from the live action community. And keep an eye out on ccpgames.com, and hopefully we'll have more information for the World Arts MMO in the future.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.